Hey guys, this is Nick coming at you with my brand new, updated F.A. Metalfoes deck profile. The original version of this deck allowed me to take second place in my locals last month. I kind of took that experience and learned from some of my mistakes and saw some areas of my deck that needed improvement, and I went ahead and made changes accordingly. I've been cooking up some serious spice and trying to turn up the heat as much as possible and been testing endlessly, and I'm finally ready to show you guys what I've been working on and what I hope will get me to that first place spot next time I go to my locals. I hope you guys are as excited as I am. Let's go ahead and jump on into this profile so I can show you guys what I've changed with the deck. We're going to go ahead and start off with the main deck. We're playing 3 copies of F.A. Auto Navigator. F.A. Auto Navigator is the best main deck F.A. card, hands down. No matter what F.A. deck you're playing, or version of FAs you're playing, you want to play 3 copies of this. She's pretty much a terraforming on legs, allowing you to search an FA field spell from deck to hand when she's normal or special summoned. And then she can even special summon herself from the hand or graveyard by targeting an FA monster on field whose level is higher than its original. She reduces that monster's level to its original, and then her level becomes the amount reduced once she's special summoned that way. So she's just an insane starter, extender. She pretty much does it all for you. So 3 copies of Auto Nav. It's really, really important. Then we're playing 2 copies of F.A. Hang On Mach, which in my opinion is the second best main deck F.A. monster behind Auto Nav. This card, he gains 300 attack times his level. Each time an F.A. spell trap's activated, he gains a level. And then he's unaffected by the activated effects from an opponent's monster whose level or rank is lower than his. And then if Hang On Mach is level 7 or higher, he's a one-sided macrocosmos for the opponent. So this card is just insane. He can get to some pretty insane heights in terms of level. And then once that happens, it's really difficult for the opponent to get around this card and being able to deal with it, since a lot of their resources are going to be banished. Then for the last main deck FA monster I play is just 1 copy of FA Dark Dragster. Dark Dragster is just a nice extender, being able to special summon himself from the hand if there's a level 7 or higher FA monster on the board. His secondary effect is cool because he can reduce his level by 3 and then target any card on the field and destroy it. So it's nice for going first. You can use it to pop your own field spells to generate advantage, or you can use it going second to deal with any threats on the opponent's board or bait anything out, which is cool. So just 1 copy of Dark Dragster is all you need. I don't recommend you really need to play more than this, especially in a hybrid build. Maybe in a pure FA build, you could argue playing 2, but you can't control multiple copies of Dark Dragster on field anyway, so it kind of just defeats the point. So I think at 1 it's fine. And that is actually the only main deck FA monsters I'm playing. We're actually going to be jumping into the Metalfoes monsters now that I play in the main deck. So we start with 2 copies of Raremetalfoes Bismugear. Got myself an upgraded ultra rare copy from Ghosts from the Past, which looked really, really clean. So what we're going to be using the Metalfoes for in this deck are kind of like pseudo versions of Ancient Fairy Dragon. All the Metalfoes monsters share the same pendulum effect, with the exception of like 1 or 2 of them. But that pendulum effect is once per turn, I can target one other face-up card I control, destroy it, and if I do, I can set a Metalfoes spell trap directly from the deck to my field. So what you do is you use the Metalfoes monsters to nuke the FA field spells, since the FA field spells have effects when they're destroyed, and you basically go +1 every time, because you're going to get a search off the Metalfoes card, and then you're going to get a search off the FA field spell during that exchange. So that's really, really cool. Bismugear is one of the few Metalfoes monsters that actually has a monster effect, and that effect comes up sometimes. It's if this card on the field is destroyed by battle or card effect, I can add a Metalfoes monster from the deck to my hand during the end phase of the turn. So that's pretty cool. But Bismugear is also a high scale, being a scale of 8. So that's also something to note, because you can actually go into your make a pen scale and pendulum summon in this deck, which is nice. For the next Metalfoes monster is going to be 2 copies of Metalfoes Steelen. It's a high scale, being a scale of 8. It is a normal monster, so it has no monster effect, but it does have the exact same pendulum effect that Bismugear had, which was you get to target a face-up card you control, destroy it, and then you get to set a Metalfoes spell trap from the deck to your board. So Steeling's nice just as a 2 of. Then we play 2 copies of Metalfoes Silverd. Again, it's just another vanilla monster. You mainly use it for the pendulum effect, being able to pop your field spells and generate huge amounts of advantage over the opponent. and it's also our first low scale, being a scale of 1. So two copies of Metalfoes Silverd, excuse me. Then up next, we play 1 copy of Parametalfoes Melcaster. Melcaster's nice. I was previously playing 2 of it, but throughout testing, I found that 2 was a bit bricky. So 1 is fine. It's a level 7 Metalfoes, so it's one of the higher level main deck ones. It is a low scale, being a scale of 1. Has the exact same pendulum effect as Bismugear, Steelen, and Silverd had. And the monster effect, though, it's one of the few Metalfoes monsters that has a monster effect. It's kind of similar to Bismugear, except instead of letting you add Metalfoes monsters from the deck to your hand, when Melcaster's destroyed, it lets you add a face-up Metalfoes pendulum monster from the extra deck to your hand, which is nice. So it helps you get some resources back, but just 1 copy of Melcaster is all you need, no more than that. And then for the last Metalfoes main deck monster that we play is going to be 1 copy of Metalfoes Vanisher. Vanisher is awesome. Really high attack, just a big beefy body to special summon. It is a level 9 monster. The pendulum effect doesn't ever come up whatsoever in this build. Maybe in a pure Metalfoes deck it does, but with combining this deck with F.A, the pend effect really has no purpose. However, the monster effect gets used a lot, and that effect is, while this card's in the hand, I can target 2 face-up cards I control, including a Metalfoes card, destroy them, both, and if I do, I can special summon this card from the hand. And then if this card is special summoned by the effect of a Metalfoes card, including its own effect, I can target a monster the opponent has on their field or in their graveyard and banish it. So it's really nice to be able to summon on your turn by popping 2 cards you control, including a Metalfoes card. So I can pop like a scale and a field spell, special summon this from hand, and just use it as like an extender that way. Or I can summon this during the opponent's turn with one of the Metalfoes trap cards, summoning it out of the deck, and then having it be a disruption on their turn, because when it's special summoned by a Metalfoes card, it can target a monster they have in their field or grave and banish it. So you can, 1 copy is all you need, but it's just a really cool card overall, just to play in the deck, whether you're playing pure Metalfoes or not. Then we're playing 1 copy of Mecha Phantom Beast Aerosguin. Aerosguin is going to be our Mecha Phantom Beast target for Mecha Phantom Beast Auroradon on our extra deck. However, Aerosguin is pretty cool. I know a lot of people play Colt Wing instead. I play Aerosguin just because it's a level 3 monster, and its level becomes the combined level of all Mecha Phantom Beast tokens on field. So assuming I control 1 Mecha Phantom Beast token, its level is actually 6. So I use this to like synchro climb into stuff, and just having a non-tuner monster that modulates levels similar to the F.A cards is really nice and allows you to go into some really clean or cheeky synchro plays. So just 1 copy of Mecha Phantom Beast Aerosguin. Also something to note, its monster effect does allow you to banish a Mecha Phantom Beast from the graveyard to special summon 1 Mecha Phantom Beast token to the field. So assuming you have no tokens on board, you can actually use this card's effect to special a token on board, making this card become level 6, which is cool. So just 1 copy of that. Now in the first version of the deck, I was playing 1 copy of Despot 1. That ratio has changed. I'm now playing 2 copies. The reason for this is because I noticed during that event that I had went to and placed second, a lot of people were like DD crowing this card or called by the graving it, which was really annoying and felt pretty bad. So I wanted a way to be able to have more copies of this, just in case something does happen to the first one. I'm not totally screwed out of my combo. Also, there is some more spice that I'm playing, which you'll see shortly when I get to the spells. And that's another reason as to why I'm playing 2 copies of Despot 1. It's just a really great tuner monster, being able to special summon itself from the grave when 2 or more machines are summoned at once. Really, really awesome. Hopefully Konami doesn't ban this too, but yeah. Then we're playing not 1, not 2, but finally 3 copies of Magician Souls. I know in the first version of this deck I was playing just 2 copies of it, partly because I couldn't afford the third. I was able to afford get my hands on a third one, so now we're playing 3 copies of Souls, and that is the proper ratio. You do not want to be playing any less than this. Any version of Metalfoes, I think, benefits hugely from Souls. It's just such an insane extender. You know, giving you draw power, a free body. It just does everything you could ask for out of an extender. So 3 copies of Souls is definitely the correct ratio finally. I'm so glad I was able to get my hands on the third. And then for our Magician Souls target, we're playing one copy of Chronograph Sorcerer. Chronograph Sorcerer is a level 6 Dark Spellcaster. A lot of people think that this card's a brick if you draw it. It's actually not, because of its monster effect. It says if a card or cards I control is destroyed by battle or by card effect, I can special summon this card from the hand, and then special summon one monster from my hand. And since I'm playing Metalfoes in this deck, and the Metalfoes cards like to blow stuff up, it's very easy to trigger this card's monster effect in hand, and being able to just summon it that way. So if you draw this card, it's not the end of the world. Ideally, you want it in the deck to send off a Souls, but if you do draw it, it's totally fine. You can still use it as an extender during your combo. Then we just play for the last monster in the main deck, 2 copies of Ash Blossom and Joyous Spring. This is a flex spot. You can choose to play whatever hand trap you'd like. I'm just playing 2 Ash just because I feel that Ash is a very good catch-all in the deck, or in any format. It's just a great card to have no matter what decks you're going up against. Ash is just a really cool card, but feel free to experiment. If you want to play a different hand trap in this slot, you can, but I'm just playing the Ash because that's what I had access to. Then, for our brand new spice in this deck, moving on to the spell cards, we are going to be playing triple copies of Machine Duplication. Machine Duplication is incredible, and I really don't understand why this card isn't banned yet, to be honest. I mean, I don't know, it's restricted to just machines, but any machine deck that can play Machine Dupe should be playing Machine Dupe without a doubt. Now, I know in a lot of pure FA builds, they're not playing Machine Duplication, but since I'm playing more of a combo-oriented build, well, with the Metalfoes cards, I feel that Machine Dupe actually works a lot better in this deck than it would in a pure FA version. And that's because we have some really good Machine Dupe targets, being Auto Navigator, and also having our Despot 1 as our secondary Machine Dupe target. And that's actually part of the reason why I'm playing a second copy of Despot 1 now, is because we just have a really good card to help us get to our second one, just to give us an extra tuner on board to help further extend our plays. Machine Duplication allows us to target a machine monster with 1500 or less attack, or I'm sorry, 500 or less attack, excuse me. Special summon up to 2 monsters from my deck with the same name as that face-up monster. So I can target an Auto Nav and bring out another one straight out of the deck, or I can even target the Despot 1 and then bring out the second one straight out from the deck as well. That way, when we make our Auroradon play, both copies can trigger in the graveyard. And that way, even if the opponent does have like a DD Crow, at least we don't get screwed out of our combo. We still have one Despot 1 that we can revive and still continue to play through any disruption, which is nice. So Machine Duplication at 3. In testing, this card has given me so much advantage and has allowed me to extend into some really nice boards, even playing through disruption, because the card's not even once per turn either. I can activate Machine Dupe, and if they Ash Blossom me and I have a second copy, I can just activate the second copy and just go off from there. I just think Machine Duplication is a really nice card that anybody that has access or the ability to play it in their deck should definitely take a look at that, for sure. Machine Duplication is so good, in my opinion, that I don't think I'm cutting it from the deck ever moving forward. I think Machine Dupe is definitely a staple moving forward in this FA Metalfoes deck that I came up with. Up next, we're playing 2 copies of FA Test Run. Quick play spell. It can target an FA monster we control, you change its battle position, and then we can destroy 1 card in the field. It doesn't target, it's a quick play. You can either use it going first, going second. You can even set it on the board and just use it like a trap card for disruption, like a Zodiac Trident almost. And then the secondary effect is we can banish this card from the graveyard, target a card we control, destroy it, and if we do, we special summon an FA monster out of the deck. So it's almost like a Zodiac Barrage, but for FAs. So 2 copies of that, really, really nice. The only reason why you're not playing 3 is because you have a whole bunch of ways to search it with all the search power that this deck has, and I think at 3 would be too bricky anyway. Then we play 1 copy of FA Pit Stop. FA Pit Stop's really nice. Gives you a draw if you activate it on field, although most of the time I'm usually using this as Magician Souls fodder. The secondary effect is a lot better in my opinion, and that is you can banish this card from the graveyard to Monster Reborn in FA that's in your graveyard. So it's nice having an in-archetype Reborn. That's cool. The first effect, it just gets you 1 draw by reducing an FA monster's level by 2. But to be honest, I mean, you're better off just sending this card to the grave off of a Magician Souls most of the time, so that's why we play just 1 of it. Moving into the field spells, we play 2 copies of FA Hyperstadium, or I'm sorry, UA Hyperstadium. It's always treated as an FA card though, no matter where it is, so that's how we can search it off of things like AutoNav and whatnot. This field spell is nice because when it's activated, you can add an FA monster from deck to hand, which is cool. Just gives you so much more consistency with the deck. And then the secondary effect is you can reveal a field spell in your hand, pay 1,000 life points, and it gives you an additional normal summon of an FA monster this turn, in addition to your normal summoner set, even if this card leaves the field. So that's also nice too, because I can even send this card from field to the graveyard with Magician Souls, and if I've used the secondary effect, even though this card's no longer on board, later in my combo, if I happen to gain access to another FA monster, I can still normal summon that FA monster using this card's effect, even though this card left the field. So there's 2 copies of that. Then we play 3 copies of FA City Grand Prix, which in my opinion is the best FA field spell currently. It increases the levels of FA monsters on the field by 2 during the main phase and battle phase. It grants your monsters targeting protection from your opponent's card effects, so your opponent cannot target your FA monsters with card effects. And then if this face-up card on the field is destroyed, you can add an FA card from deck to hand except a copy of itself. So that's part of the reason why we're playing the Metalfoes in this deck, is because you can just use the Metalfoes pendulum effects to blow up your field spells and just generate insane amounts of advantage over the opponent. Something to note as well, the FA field spells only have to be destroyed by a card effect in order to trigger. It doesn't matter where they go after that point, so like they don't have to be destroyed and sent to grave. So even if the opponent has like a Macrocosmos on field, you can still destroy this and still get your search. This card does not have to go to the graveyard when it's just destroyed to be able to trigger, which is something to note as well. Then we play 2 copies of Off-Road Grand Prix. It increases the levels of FA monsters on the field by 2 during the main phase. Then its secondary effect is if a FA monster you control is destroyed by battle, you can discard 1 random card out of the opponent's hand. So that's pretty cool. Catches the opponent off guard sometimes because no one ever reads cards in Yu-Gi-Oh! And then the last effect is just like City Grand Prix, where if it's destroyed, you can add any FA card from deck to hand except a copy of itself. And then for the last field spell that we're playing is just 1 copy of Circuit Grand Prix. Circuit Grand Prix isn't necessarily a bad field spell, it's just not the best one, and that's because it doesn't give your FA monsters levels during the main phase, which is when you're going to be synchro climbing and comboing off. It only gives them levels in the battle phase, which is cool, but not when you need it most, which is the main phase, because that's when you're making most of your plays anyway. However, it does have a pretty nice effect where if an FA monster you control destroys an opponent's monster by battle, you get to draw a card, which is nice. So any card that lets you draw is obviously really good. So that's why we play just 1 of this. And since we have so much searchability with the deck, having it at 1 is fine because you pretty much search it whenever you need it. And then again, when it's destroyed by a card effect, you get to search for any FA card from deck to your hand except a copy of itself. Then we play 2 copies of Where Arf Thou in the main deck. This allows you, if you have a face-up level 1 monster on field, you can add a level 1 monster from the deck to your hand with the... You can add a level 1 monster from the deck to your hand, and then during the end phase of this turn, you take 2,000 damage if you didn't normal summon the added monster or a card with the same name during the end phase. So the reason why we play Where Arf Thou is because we have some really good level 1 targets. We play the AutoNav, obviously. We play the Bismugear. We also play the Despot. And then we also have the Souls. So these are 4 level 1 monsters that we play in the main deck that are all can be used with Where Arf Thou. So it just gives us more searchability. Where Arf Thou can become AutoNav, Bismugear, Despot, or Souls, depending on our hand. You know, if we have a Souls in hand and have Where Arf Thou, we can activate it to search AutoNav, or vice versa. If we have AutoNav, activate Where Arf Thou to search a Souls. Or if we have Souls and we want to pop a field spell to generate more advantage, we can search a Bismugear. So there's a lot of things you can do with the Where Arf Thou. That's why I had to play 2 of it, because we have some really good targets for it anyway. And also something to note is Where Arf Thou lacks a once per turn clause. So if you have 1 copy and you activate it and your opponent decides to ash you, you can still activate a 2nd copy if you have it, which is cool. Or you can even use both copies in the same turn and just, you know, get some really good searches off and go off from there. So Where Arf Thou is really nice to have. It functions as like pseudo copies of your other level 1 monsters that we play. Then moving on into the Metalfoes spells and traps, we play 1 copy of Parametalfoes Fusion. with one of the newer fusion spells out of Blazing Vortex. It allows you to fusion summon a Metalfoes monster from the extra deck by using up to one monster each from the hand, field, and or face up in the extra deck as fusion material, which is cool. I wish you could just use multiples of each from anywhere, because like for example, if you have two face up Pendulum Metalfoes monsters in the extra deck, you can't use both of those monsters in the extra deck as material. It can only be one of them, and then the other material would have to be either from the hand or field. That's the only thing that kind of sucks about this card, but it's still nice that you can at least use one material from the extra deck, so you're not totally negging yourself resources. So that's why we play just one of it. Then we play one copy of Metalfoes Fusion. We have a brand new copy out of Ghost from the Past, nice ultra rare, so it looks pretty clean. Metalfoes Fusion is nice, it's just your typical fusion spell, allowing you to fusion summon a Metalfoes Fusion monster from the extra deck by using materials from your hand or field. And then if this card's in the graveyard, you can shuffle it back into the deck to draw a card. Really cool secondary effect, really a great Magician Souls fodder, and it's just a really good card overall, allowing you to constantly recycle itself over and over again. 2 copies of Metalfoes Counter, my personal favorite Metalfoes spell trap. What it does is when a card or cards you control is destroyed by battle or by card effect, you can special summon a Metalfoes monster straight out of your deck. So that's actually how you can summon cards like Bismugear or cards like Vanisher from your deck during the opponent's turn. When they're dealing with like your board and cracking your field or whatnot, you can actually punish them by summoning Vanisher out of the deck off of counter. And since Vanisher was summoned by a Metalfoes card, Vanisher's effect will trigger on special summon to banish something on their field or in their graveyard, which is really, really cool. And then Counter does have a secondary effect where you can banish the counter from the graveyard to add a Metalfoes Pendulum monster from your the extra deck that's face up back to your hand. So it helps you like recur resources. This card just does it all, and that's actually why I'm playing it at 2 copies, and it's the only Metalfoes spell trap that I play at 2. And then lastly, for the last card in the main deck, is 1 copy of Metalfoes Combination. Combination's cool. To be honest with you, we only play this because we play Magician Souls in the deck, and we use it for the grave effect, where if this card is sent from the field to the graveyard, you get to add a Metalfoes monster from the deck to your hand. The first effect doesn't really come up as much. It's, more so if you're playing a pure Metalfoes deck, but in this deck, all we use this card for is the secondary effect, and it functions pretty well for that, giving you a search when it's sent as fodder for Magician Souls. So that's it for the main deck, guys. That's 44 cards. Let's move on to the extra deck, which we're playing a couple new things. So we're playing Crystron Quandax in the extra as our brand new level 4 Machine Tuner Synchro. This card is nice because it allows us to synchro summon during our opponent's main phase or battle phase as a quick effect, which is really cool, allowing us to synchro summon into some cards on their turn and kind of disrupt their plays. Quandax is just a really nice card, generic tuner monster that's a synchro. Pretty good stats. And then if for whatever reason, if we don't use the first effect, the secondary effect is nice because if this card gets destroyed by battle or card effect, we can target a Crystron monster in our graveyard, accept a synchro, and special summon it. So this can help us revive a Crystron Halqifibrax if for whatever reason we have one engraved, which is nice. Then we play 1 copy of Coral Dragon, being our secondary synchro tuner monster in the deck. It's nice being a level 6. We can discard a card to target a card on the field or the opponent controls and destroy it. And then if this card is sent from field to grave, doesn't matter how it gets there, even if they kaiju it, it still triggers. We get to draw a card. So it's just nice having another synchro monster that's a tuner. Then we play 1 copy of F.A. Dawn Dragster, because it's Dawn Dragster, it doesn't need any explanation. It's a spell trap negate, it does piercing damage. Because we're playing it in an F.A. deck, it gains levels when we activate F.A. cards, it gains attack, it just gets really big, really annoying for the opponent to deal with, so Dawn Dragster is just really important as a one-off. 1 copy of Cyberse Quantum Dragon, just as a nice generic level 7 synchro we play. It has a really nice non-target, non-destruction removal effect, being able to return cards that it battles back to the hand. So this allows us to out things like Dragoon by attacking into it, assuming we baited Dragoon's negate first. And then we can just bounce the Dragoon back to their extra deck, which is cool. So 1 copy of Quantum Dragon is nice. Then we play 1 copy of High Speed Red Kite Drake, because Kite Drake is just a really insane level 8 synchro, allowing us to do one of two things when it's summoned. We can either destroy all other cards on the field, or we can negate the effects of all face-up cards the opponent currently controls, and that effect negation is permanent. So that's just insane. Like, this is a card that when we synchro summon, it's going to prompt some sort of response, because if the opponent doesn't, they're either losing their entire board, or their entire field's getting Dark Ruler. So one copy of Kite Drake is really nice. One copy of Omega, because again, it's just another really nice generic level 8 synchro we can play, allowing us to rip cards out of the opponent's hand, return banished cards back to our graveyard for further use. Omega just does it all, and it's just a really cool generic level 8 to play. Then we play one copy of Borlord Savage, just because it's probably the best level 8 synchro in the game currently. Just being an Omni negation and being able to gain like huge amounts of attack, it's just really annoying for the opponent to deal with, and an overall insane card. So definitely got to play the Borlord Savage. Then we play one copy of Motorhome Transport, just because it's really cool. The card gets really big because it gains 300 attack times its level, and then it gains a level each time an FA spell trap's activated. If it's level 11 or higher, it can't be destroyed by battle or card effects. And then if it's level 13 or higher, it becomes a once per turn monster reborn of an FA monster from the graveyard. So it's just really nice to play this as a one-of. Then we play the one copy of Virtual World Shen, just as a generic level 9 synchro that we have access to. Being able to, macrocosmos anything that the opponent has in their field is nice. And again, the Shen is just a really cool card we can play. Then, as a new spicy tech choice, we play one copy of Satellite Warrior as a somewhat generic level 10 synchro. Since we play Crystron Quandax, we can actually synchro summon the Satellite Warrior on the opponent's turn, allowing us to pop cards in their field, and then this card gains 1,000 attack for each card that was blown up, and that attack boost sticks, so it's just a really cool disruption that we have access to. So that's what I'm testing out in the main deck, or the extra deck currently. Then moving on to our Metalfoes Fusions, we play one copy of Alkahest, which is like a Snatch Steal as a quick effect on the opponent's turn, one copy of Mithrilium, and then one copy of Orichalc. These are the only three Metalfoes Fusions we're playing right now. Mithrilium's nice because it's a target bounce, a non-destruction removal, but it's still pretty clean, and then when it leaves the field, it's a monster reborn for a Metalfoes card. And then Orichalc is cool, being a level 8, 2800, it does double piercing damage, and then if it leaves the field, we can target a card in the field and destroy it. So these are our Metalfoes Fusions that we have access to. They're all really cool in their own way, do different things depending on the scenarios that we're put into. And then for the last two cards in the extra deck, we play the one Crystron Hulk of Fibrax, because if you're playing anything that has tuners and synchros, you're playing Hulk. It's almost a mandatory card at this point. It needs no explanation. If you don't know what Hulk does, you probably shouldn't be playing Yu-Gi-Oh! Because this card is absolutely insane. So one copy of Hulk, and then we play one copy of Mecha Phantom Beast Auroradon for the simple fact that when it's link summoned, we special summon three copies of 3 Mecha Phantom Beast tokens, and it just allows us to extend it to some crazy synchro plays. So that's it for the main deck and the extra deck, guys. Hopefully you guys like some of the changes. Let's move on to the side deck really quick before I wrap things up here. We play the third copy of Ash Blossom in the side. Again, in my previous deck profile, I was only playing 2 Ash, and that's partly because I couldn't afford the third. Well, now I have access to it, so I'm playing it. I side into the third Ash depending on the matchup, but just nice to have now that I have 3, which is cool. Then we play triple copies of Godarla, the Mystery Dust Kaiju. We're playing this Kaiju over the other ones because mainly for the Lyralusk Tri-Brigade deck, that deck tends to like to lock you into the Wind Barrier statue. And even though I play Wind monsters in my deck, so I can still kind of play around the Barrier statue, I just don't like being restricted at all. So that's where the Wind Kaiju comes into play. If anybody decides to lock me under the Wind Barrier statue, I just drop this Kaiju on them and they basically extend the handshake. One copy of Wind Pegasus Ad Ignister on the side, just as a level 7 synchro that I can side into depending on the matchup. If I'm going up against a heavy back row matchup, I side this in because it can pop spells and traps the opponent controls. Or if I'm going against like a Dogmatica matchup and they're playing Maximus in their main deck, I can side into this as well as a target that I can dump when they activate Maximus's effect to help punish them. So Wind Pegasus Ad Ignister in the side deck is nice as a one-of. Then you play triple Dark Ruler No More in the side. Again, because you have decks like Dragon Link running rampant right now in the format, Dark Ruler No More is just an insane card against a deck like that. Being able to shut their entire field down, that way you can play Yu-Gi-Oh! Then we played 2 Twin Twisters, went ahead and upgraded to some secret rare copies. You could argue that you could play Cosmic Cyclone over this. However, the only reason why I'm playing the Twin Twisters instead of Cyclone is because I can actually use Twisters to pop my field spells as well, in addition to popping a card that the opponent controls, which is nice. And then my field spells trigger, obviously, when they're destroyed. So that's why I play the Twin Twisters. But you could play the Cyclones if you wanted to, but that's just a personal tech choice of mine. 1 Duster, again, for the back row matchups. Just a huge blowout against decks like that. And then you play 1 Called by the Grave in the side. Also upgraded to the Prismatic Secret out of the Megatins. Got rid of the Ultra Rare that I had. I side into this if I'm going up against a Graveyard Reliant matchup, something like Eldritch. I would main deck this card, but I just feel like since it's limited, it's a bit of a sack. Having it in the main deck, you never see it when you want it. So that's why I have this card in the side deck only and just side into it for matchups that require it. And then for the last side deck cards, I played triple copies of Evenly Matched. I was only playing 2 previously in my first build. Again, for the same reason why I was only playing 2 Ash and 2 Souls, because I couldn't afford the third Evenly. But I saved up all the pennies in my piggy bank and I was able to get my playset now. So I played triple Evenly Matched in my side deck. So that's it for the main deck, extra deck, and side, guys. Hopefully you like my updates that I made to this deck. Stay tuned, because I will be making an updated F.A. Metalfoes combo tutorial using the new cards in my updated deck. And hopefully I can go to my locals soon with the new build and try and take first place. So stay tuned, guys. Like and subscribe if you haven't already. And yeah, you guys have a good evening. Thanks for watching.